Hi, you wonderful people. It is time for another car review and another video of me complaining about lack of sleep, because even though I actually got enough sleep last night, clearly I did not sleep very well because I feel like a bit of a zombie, but we'll pull through it. Anyway, this is the second generation MGHS. Now, this video is not gonna start in the normal way. I'm not immediately gonna go into telling you everything there is to know about this car, because back in the summer of 2024, I drove the first generation of the MGHS. That was a facelift model, and I prepared a whole review. That was the old format where I would just have a lot of B-roll going in the background, and then I would just talk in the voiceover. But then I went to the auto show in Basel a month later, and this car, the second generation HS, was on display. So I was like, well, there's no point in posting the video on YouTube. I posted the review on my website for the local market, but I didn't post the video on YouTube because I decided that there's no point in talking about the old MGHS when the new one is already here. Well, I'll just wait for this one to arrive. And that took almost 2 years, as you can probably tell. And luckily, I saved all of the footage from that review. So we're going to do kind of like a little comparison, because the main thing I want to focus on here is just how well the Chinese seem to respond to feedback. Because while the old HS was by no means bad, there are a few little areas where I felt things could have been done a little bit better. By the way, before I geek out like an imbecile, there's a Trabant wagon on this parking lot. I don't know if you can see that. Sick. I would love to review that, but I have no idea who's the owner. Anyway, the main thing I want to focus on is how the Chinese respond to feedback, because almost all of the criticisms I had with the old HS have been addressed in this car, which we will get to one by one. We will cover all of that one by one, shall we say. We are currently in town. You probably recognize this route if you've seen my other videos. We're on our way to the highway. I apologize for the dust and the fingerprints on the screens, but I forgot my microfiber cloth at home. I'll try to sort this out with my coat sleeve or whatever. Anyway, yes, the second generation MGHS, originally introduced for, I think, model year 2025 towards the end of 24, and it arrived in Macedonia last year. But I didn't get around to reviewing it because the press car that they had was a little bit busy. And that was a hybrid, I believe, as well. The other press car that the dealership had was a hybrid. This one is not a hybrid, but that's okay. If anything, it's an even more fair point of comparison, because the previous HS that I drove was also not a hybrid. There's a lot of traffic here. What's going on? By the way, I should say it's freaking Saturday. And the weather isn't even particularly nice for there to be so much traffic. I don't know what's going on. Come on. X-Trail, or Rogue as you may know it. I see. This might take a little while. Anyway, so what's new about the MGHS? Well, the second generation model, as I'm sure you noticed by the B-roll in the background, is radically different on the outside. And it's also pretty significantly different on the inside as well. One of the things that I would say about the old MGHS was that the styling was a little bit anonymous. That's a big-ass inflatable chicken. My goodness. They have some of the best rotisserie chickens in the city, by the way. Anyway, that's irrelevant. That's just my undiagnosed ADHD talking. One of the criticisms I had about the old MGHS, I don't believe that I said this, or wasn't planning to say this, but the styling was a little bit anonymous, and to be quite honest with you, with the facelift, the front grille was a little bit too big. It looked a little out of whack, but MG was like, okay, no problem. Way sharper styling. It does wear the automaker's new corporate face, at least the corporate face that applies to the hybrids and the internal combustion models. The electric models are a little bit different now, but regardless, the HS is now a solid-looking thing. It's very confident, and honestly, I really dig this design. It's a little bit bulky, and there's, frankly, a little bit too much ground clearance for what this is. The Ford Kuga did the whole ground clearance thing a little bit better, as in for ease of entry and things like that. Although that's probably because the ST line is on lowered suspension. Ironically, the same dealership that provided the Kuga also provided this. So it's a fair comparison, if anything. But The styling on the new HS is way sharper and, in my opinion, way more interesting, and it's kind of cool. And I kind of prefer it over stuff like the Kia Sportage. It can't hang with the Cupra Terramar, in my opinion. Cupra Terramar is a little bit better looking than this, but this is a big improvement over the first generation HS. There's also a huge amount of improvements to do with the interior and the material quality and things like that, but one by one, we need to talk about what it's like to drive in town. And, well, it's solid, it's excellent. There's not really a whole lot I can say. The biggest surprise for me, honestly, was the suspension, the ride comfort. It's super comfy. It does get a tiny bit bouncy on like little tiny imperfections, but for big speed humps and stuff, it's very comfy and very supple. I'm not sure of what type of suspension it uses, but knowing Chinese cars, I'm pretty certain we have a McPherson setup in the front and a multi-link setup in the rear, so pretty sophisticated suspension, all things considered. And you can feel it. It feels great. Also, another lesson that the Chinese have learned, I usually leave this part of the video for the features, but the Chinese, most of them now understand that nobody wants their crappy tires. This car comes from the factory with Bridgestones. And actually, I believe that's a thing with all of MG's models now. The ZS that I drove last year, that was on Kumo tires. And generally, the Chinese are learning their lesson when it comes to tires. Quality stuff. The engine in this one is a little bit, grumbly. You can kind of feel it grumble away when you're accelerating. But it's not a bad sound at all. I actually kind of enjoy things like that. Oh yeah, they also stole this from a Hyundai. Ironically, again, the dealership that provided this car also provides the Hyundais that I review on the channel. Although I believe there's only been one Hyundai so far. The Kona hybrid? Yeah, I think that was it. Anyway, yes, that's a thing. When you turn on the turn signal, it brings up this camera that is actually in the front quarter panels to make sure you don't curb your wheels or anything like that. Steering is very lightweight, although you can adjust the weight of the power steering if you would like. Seats are pretty comfy. They are full leather items in this trim level. This is the luxury trim level, which basically means fully loaded. Oh yeah, very interesting. I believe this here to be the evil sensor that monitors whether or not I call it the evil sensor, that's a joke obviously, but I believe that's the sensor that watches whether or not you're paying attention to the road, and it's here in the A-pillar. Like those boost and oil pressure gauges in the Fast and Furious movies. Makes me feel like Dominic Toretto or Brian O'Connor or something. It's fun. Mirrors are perfectly sized. There's a lot of headroom in here, although I would add a panoramic sunroof. I don't know if it's available because I cannot find the spec sheet for this car. MG's website hasn't been updated as of this recording. One thing I kind of don't understand is you have to mess around with the driver assistance systems, or indeed most of the stuff that's shown in the gauge cluster, through the infotainment system. You go in that little car menu, I'll show you later, and you configure your MG Pilot, shall we say. There's not enough buttons on the steering wheel to adjust that, and the turn signals and wiper stalks are way too skinny to allow any room to adjust options like that. So the idea is you would stop, you would configure everything that you need to see, and then you'd switch between them using that little button there. Oh, I forgot to disable auto start stop. We don't need that. Oh, also, two other minor complaints that I have. One, Apple CarPlay is wired and you need a USB-A cable, and because my charge port is busted, the connection is very unstable. That's kind of annoying. If you were to buy this car, I would get one of those little wireless CarPlay adapter thingies that you put in the USB port to make your life a little bit easier. And the other thing is, even though this car is running the exact same infotainment system, at least from what I can see, as the ZS, you cannot configure the star buttons on the steering wheel to change the climate controls like you could in that car, which is a huge shame. The star buttons are configurable, make no mistake, but you can't use them to adjust the climate control with that knob on the right spoke. On a brighter note, I now actually will demonstrate to you how you can change the commands that these star buttons operate. Other than that, perfectly good experience in town, and the fuel economy is pretty solid. I've averaged last night when there was no traffic and I was, driving diligently and respecting the law. Yes, words. Oh, sick. This van over here, the Evasion that you see, That was for sale at one point, and I really wanted to buy it. It was in my neighborhood. I never learned, do I? That's really all the complaints I have about the the HS, sorry. The fuel economy, as I was saying last night when I was doing driving respectfully, because words are hard, I averaged roughly 6.9, nice, 6.9 or 7 liters per 100 kilometers, which is perfectly good for literally no hybrid assistance whatsoever. We will see how things fare on the highway in a little bit. I will now stop the recording, and I will join you all in a moment. Hello again. We're about to join the highway. You know how this goes. There are no drive modes in this car. I think I might have said that in the previous clip. There's just a sport mode for the transmission, so please excuse me while I notch the shifter over into sport mode, which, by the way, you could not do in the old HS, so that's another thing that they addressed. Just make our way over here. And we can gun it. We can gun it. Right, of course. Stupid speed limiter. Don't want to exceed 100 kph because the car doesn't even have 700 kilometers on the odometer. Okay. Absolutely, actually, fantastic. Let me put this back into drive. So a little bit of wind noise and a tiny little bit of road noise. Because as I've explained in my other videos, the tarmac on this part of the highway is really old and terrible, but this is some of the best I've seen canceling out the noise from the tarmac of a recent press car. In the others that I've driven, it was a lot more pronounced than this. The engine is quite happy cruising at 1900 RPM. It's one of the lowest tickovers I've seen in a long time. I don't know if it's in 7th gear right now. I can't check. Yes, I know there's roadworks. You can relax. Come on. The Mini appears to be a little bit scared. Yeah, there's still roadworks. Okay. Ooh, lovely new tarmac. Shame we can't do the highway speed on this tarmac to see what it would be like, you know, with new tarmac in a fair comparison. And go. Well, it's I'm not really flooring it because, again, break-in period, but there seems to be plenty of power for acceleration and overtaking. Oh, my hands always get sweaty when they're on the steering wheel. Come on, where'd you get 60 from? Stupid speed limit warning. I'm not gonna let you in. You're not supposed to be here anyway, you're a truck. You're not supposed to be in the passing lane. I really have no notes about the highway experience in the MGHS. The sound insulation is excellent. The sound insulation is excellent, there's plenty of power, and there's not really a whole lot else I can say. Crap, I forgot to measure the fuel economy. Let me try this before the exit comes up. 5.7, 5.4, we're going downhill, that's not fair. 4.4, still going downhill, that's not fair. I will take it out on the highway again in normal circumstances and if need be, but that ain't fair. There is adaptive cruise control in this, by the way, but I have to dive into the infotainment system to turn it on. I don't feel like doing that right now. Speed camera. All right, I'm gonna call this 5.5 on the highway. In normal circumstances, I will try to get back out on the highway again and do an actual test of the fuel economy, and I'll report back. Sound good? Great. Hello again. It is the next day. The sky has cleared. It is a wonderful day. Yeah, I didn't sleep again last night. It's fine. We'll get through it. Let's check out the features on the MGHS. I apologize. I realized just now I never actually showed you why there's often a lot of noise in this filming location. That's why. It's a factory here. But this is like the only spot on a Sunday that's convenient enough to film, and also one of the only ones where I won't get kicked out. So we'll run with it. And also, apologies for the dust on the car, but it was quite an unpredictable weekend. So, as I said, radically different design compared to the old HS. As you can see here in the front, we have the new MG corporate face. Admittedly, this corporate face is only for the hybrids and the internal combustion models. The electric ones look slightly different than this, but we have the same sort of big mouth front end as the ZS, except in the HS, as you can see, the headlights are way slimmer and they're actually full LED items, unlike before. We also have fog lights down there and that little radar for the adaptive cruise control, which this car, I believe, gets as standard. MG badge there in the center. Very little in the way of plastic cladding, and the one that is there, the plastic cladding that we do have, is actually gloss black instead of matte black. This particular HS is on 18-inch alloys. I believe these are the only ones you can get on this trim level. Nothing that isn't diamond cut, unfortunately. It's all diamond cut stuff. You can't get just plain old silver wheels, unfortunately, but we'll let them slide. And it comes standard with Bridgestone Alenza tires. So that whole thing with the Chinese automakers finally learning their lesson about the tires, and that we don't want Chinese tires. We want something with a little bit more perceived quality. And these tires are excellent, as we found out the other day. There's also this interesting sort of character line extending from the front fender into the door with this little sort of triangular, kind of reminds me of a shark teeth pattern, if you will. It also hides a camera for parking and for maneuvering and things like that. There's also a camera in the mirrors, and the mirrors themselves actually have some pretty cool, pretty unusual turn signals, as I shall show you now. There you go. Another thing about the MGHS that is interesting to me, at least, is the ground clearance. There's actually quite a lot of ground clearance, and there's quite a bit of height that you have to step down when you get out or when you get in. There's something to keep in mind. And it's also interesting because you can't get this car with all-wheel drive, at least not yet, but it does have quite a bit of ground clearance, so clearing, you know, little hills or something like that where you have to descend downwards and then reach level ground shouldn't be that much of an issue. I only say this very specific circumstance because that's something I had to do yesterday. We got some silver roof rails there and a little bit of chrome accent extending from the A-pillar to the C-pillar. The roof line is relatively sloped for what this is, and in the back we have a full-width light bar. Yes, it is actually full-width light bar and full LED taillights, of course. The HS badge there in the corner of the tailgate. A little bit of silver on the rear diffuser, and a slightly unfortunate, and when I say slightly, I mean very unfortunate hallmark of MG vehicles, fake exhausts. Again, they've been doing this for years, and I think it's time to stop. Nobody likes fake exhausts anymore. Even the biggest ambassador of fake exhausts, Audi, even they abandoned them. Come on, just get rid of this, please. Anyway, what do I think of the styling of the MGHS? Oh, almost forgot. The color is called Diamond Red. What do I think of that? Doesn't make any sense. Diamonds are not usually red. They're more often than not white, but it's a lovely looking color. Other than the fake exhausts, what do I think of the styling of the MGHS? I'm gonna be honest with you, I think it's very cool. There's so much more presence and character to this design compared to the outgoing HS, and it looks interesting. You'll definitely sort of, well, in my opinion, you would definitely stop and have a second glance at this car when you were to see it on the road. It does have a lot going for it in terms of styling, and as you know in this segment, that's kind of an important thing, isn't it? So a very cool design, and well, good job to MG on the design, frankly. It's pretty excellent. Anyway, let's move this along to practicality and stuff like that. First, the key fob. Same old MG key fob, we've seen this before. Well, we've only seen it once before on the ZS, but it is indeed the same key fob. And on the back, you have your 3 buttons. You have unlock, you also have lock, and the tailgate release, which is automatic on this particular luxury trim level. Opening up the tailgate reveals a 507-liter cargo area. You get storage nets, you get LED lighting, and you get a sliding parcel shelf, yes. Oh, doggies, hello. A sliding parcel shelf to cover your cargo so you don't have to remove it or store it somewhere unnecessarily. Although it is removable using those little levers over there. And it's sort of like a nice little padded material. It's not sort of a hard kind of cardboardy design with cloth trim around it. It's pretty solid. There's basically no lip, which is nice, and there's any... Yes, there is a little bit of storage underneath the carpet. When you fold down the rear seats, which unfortunately you cannot do from the cargo area, which kind of disappointing. I would expect that from a CSUV like this, but regardless, when you fold down the rear seats, you get this much room. And then when you're done, you press your button, and it's all pretty standard from there. So what about space in the back seats? Let's find out. Promise I'm not breezing through this, it's just that I'm sure that a lot of you that watch these videos frequently know how this goes, so we're just gonna get the important stuff out of the way. So this seat is... It's actually not in my driving position, but I promise as soon as we're done, I will get back in here, because this is a power driver seat with memory settings. I will get back in here and I will check with the driver's seat in my driving position. But even in this rolled back position, there's plenty of room in here. Stats. Good amount of knee room. There's a bit of storage in there. And the headroom is pretty solid. There is a little bit less headroom if I sit upright like this because of the slightly sloped roofline. But there's also like a little step here in the tailgate. I don't know if you can see that. Where the headroom is slightly cut off. But here, for example, there's a little bit more. So if you're taller, you just might want to crouch down just a little bit, and I'm sure you'll be able to, find your groove in the back seat. We got rear climate vents, but no charge ports that I can see. Slightly disappointing. And a fold-down armrest in the middle with glossy cup holders. Not just regular cup holders, glossy cup holders. What about the middle seat? Oh, the floor really is basically flat. That's awesome. Yep, totally doable. Headroom is basically the same. Knee room is... I don't understand. Shut up. Headroom is basically the same. Knee room is basically the same. 3 people can travel in the back of the MGHS. No problem at all. Awesome. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah. You got illumination here in the grab handles, which I don't see very much. Usually it's, another dome light here on the ceiling. So that's pretty cool, and you can turn it on or off if you would like. Not bad. And unbelievably soft touch materials in the back as well, and a padded armrest in the back as well. Good stuff. And some door storage as well. And really quickly, before we move on to the front, I'm going to demonstrate how the seats fold down. There's the handle here, and you just pull on that. And there seems to be a slight step from the cargo area into the back seats, but it seems to be pretty manageable if you ask me. I'm just gonna put that back. Oof. These seats are always heavier because it's a 60-40 split. I promised the demonstration of the rear seat room with the seat in my driving position, and we're doing that now. That's a lot of knee room right there, if I do say so myself. Fantastic. So how about the front then? Wow, that was a good voice crack. How about the front then? Yes, there is a keyless entry system. There's a little button on the door handle and on the passenger side as well. Push that, doors lock, mirrors fold, and then you push it again, and you're ready to get in. Interior. This particular HS has black leather seats, as you can see, with this orange, or I guess copper sort of stitching. A tan leather option is also available, and I think that one looks a little bit better. Yeah. Then again, that's my bias towards a tan interior stocking, but regardless, you have your options here. And the driver's seat, as I explained, is power adjustable, and it has memory settings, although I think there's only one memory setting, and it's tied to where you last left the seat when you drove the car. It's tied to the infotainment system profile sort of thing. Anyway, let's get in. And now we're inside the HS. First thing that greets you in the new HS is the familiar MG steering wheel. It's the same as it is in the ZS and basically every other MG model now. It is a leather item, of course. You got some perforations here on the left and on the right, and it's not a perfect circle. It has a flat bottom and a flat top as well. I did that in the wrong order. It has a flat top and a flat bottom as well. Very easy to steer, all things considered. It's a little bit big for my liking, but it's nothing unmanageable or anything like that. And you can adjust the power steering heaviness. I'll show you that in a moment. On the left, you have ADAS related stuff and voice commands, and on the right, you have media controls and this little button for the gauge cluster screen. And in the middle, we have the horn, which I'm delighted to say sounds like this. This particular HS sends power to the wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission controlled through this shift lever that's a pretty standard fare, really, for a lot of modern, just about any sort of car, frankly. And it also addresses one of the complaints I had with the old HS. The old HS did not have a sport mode, and it did not have manual mode either, but this one actually does. The operation is the same as you might expect. You put it all the way down to go into drive, halfway up to go into neutral, and all the way up to go into reverse, which brings up your 360-degree camera system and your parking sensors. That's another complaint that MG addressed. The old HS had embarrassingly low resolution backup cameras. This one has much better ones. They're still not the best that I've seen, but they're way better and way more comprehensible. To go into sport mode, you notch the shifter over to the right. Now you're probably wondering, but that's manual mode, isn't it? But you see, you don't do anything with this. That doesn't activate sport mode. You notch the shifter to the right to go into sport mode, and then if you want to switch to manual mode, you push it up or down. There you go. Interesting activation. It's certainly better than cherries, but don't tell anyone I said that. And then when you're done, you just push P and you go into park. You got your parking brake, your auto hold, and your hill descent control. By the way, this car is also available with a manual transmission, and I'm kind of curious to see what that's like, but I don't think my dealer is interested in checking out those because they're the base models. You know how that goes. Infotainment system. I apologize for all the darker spots, but that's just something that my camera has a problem with. I believe this to be a 12.3-inch screen. It's either that or 10.25. It does seem like one of those sizes. And it's the standard MG infotainment system. It's the same one as in the ZS, but the color scheme is a little different. The ZS had orange as the accent color. This has blue. You got 4 tiles here on the home screen to easily reach and access your stuff, and you cannot rearrange them, unfortunately. You swipe over and you got these various options here that you can configure, and on the left you also have a bunch of shortcuts. You got your built-in navigation, your media, your climate controls, your vehicle settings, which is where you access all your ADAS related stuff, and your steering, there you go, and your camera system. And that's really about it. This is a solid infotainment system. It's pretty easy to use. The animations are not the smoothest, but they're not choppy either. It's perfectly usable, and it doesn't take a lot of, it's not very distracting. It's pretty easy to get used to it, especially because your climate controls are right here, the essential ones. You can just tap, tap, get them to work. Below the screen, you have 5 shortcuts exactly in the same position as the old HS, and they are the same shortcuts as well. Also, the starter button is exactly the same. You got home, you got climate control on or off, you got the hazards, you got the front defrost, and you got the rear defrost. And that copper stitching from the seats also extends onto the dash in this little lovely padded section. Cup holders. This time I didn't throw away my gas station coffee cup, just so I can demonstrate the cup holders. That's your USB-A port for Apple CarPlay. Yes, really. You need a USB-A cable for that. Again, 2026 model. And if your charge port on your phone is busted like mine is, good luck getting Apple CarPlay to work properly. That other USB port is for charging only, and you also have a little 12-volt outlet in there to plug up whatever you might need to do. This little arrangement that I showed you, and the wireless charger, which is in a rather interesting and frankly rather convenient spot. The only thing is, there's nothing blocking, there's only this thing blocking the wireless charger from the center console storage area. which led me to an interesting situation where I left my phone here. Actually, I'll show you what I did. So I put my phone here like this, and I had the USB cable plugged into there so I can get Apple CarPlay to work. And I shut the center console. And then as I was trying to plug in the cable and I was kind of pushing the phone, and I pushed it straight into the center console area. So I'm not sure how to feel about that. But it is a convenient spot if you're not pushing your phone, if you're not pushing a cable into your phone. It is a great little spot. So that covers the center control stack. Let's move on to the gauge cluster screen, which is brand new. I have not seen an MG vehicle use this particular cluster arrangement. This is the speed display, I believe they call it. Let me check. The speed theme. Yes, there you go. Speed theme. And you got your tachometer on the right, and your speed sort of like as a little bar on the left. Otherwise, it's digital. You can control what's shown here through this button on the steering wheel. Pretty standard. And if you go in here, you can actually change what you can see in that little display. That's your ADAS display. That's your fuel gauge. That's your gear. Speed limit warning, obviously, and your speed limiter. That's where the MG Pilot mode is shown. As you can see, you can change which pilot mode, which driving assist you have activated. LIM is speed limiter, obviously. Helpful when you have traffic surveillance cameras all over the city. That's adaptive cruise, and that's, well, I believe that stands for Intelligent Cruise Assist, which basically means sort of assisted steering and things like that. And yes, this is where you can mess around with all of your ADAS-related functionalities. There you go, there's your seat memory settings. There are actually 3, but they are tied to the infotainment system. And that's about it for the gauge cluster screen. It's very easy to read, it's super high res, I really like it. And it's quite big as well. It seems a little unusual because a lot of the time I deal with gauge cluster screens that are quite small. This is pretty big, very easily readable. Signal stock, it's very skinny, as you can see. It's a skinny legend is what it is. It's reminding me a lot of McLaren's turn signal stocks, and I mean that in a good way. So turn signals, obviously, are like that. By the way, MG still has my favorite turn signal sound of all the Chinese automakers. Let us hear it. I was making the John Hamm face behind the camera. You didn't see that. You didn't need to see that. This is your light switch. I've never seen the light switch done like this. I really like that. The action is very satisfying. And you have your wipers on this side as well. Now, I have a bone to pick with this interior. I'm going to open the window a little bit because it's getting hot in here. I have a bone to pick with this interior related to these star buttons on the steering wheel. You might remember, in the MG ZS, one of these star buttons could be configured to mess with the climate controls. You press the button and then you use this little joystick to change the climate control fan speed or the temperature. You cannot do that in this car. Which I do not understand why, because it's the same steering wheel with the same button arrangement and the same infotainment system. I'm not sure about that. Of course, in the most recent MG models, which I as of yet have not driven, this is no longer an issue because they actually get some physical controls below the screen. But you can configure these to mess with the climate controls, which is a huge shame because that is a genius idea. On another slightly more positive note, I will actually show you how you can change what they do because I didn't do that last time. It's right here in the convenience menu. You have your filled star custom button, which is currently set to bring up the cameras, and you have your outline star custom button that's currently set to change the media source. So there you go, there's that. That's really most of what there is to say about the interior of the MG HS. Door pocket is very nice with this little pattern. It's all padded and soft touch materially. Your big door handle here, your power locks. The evil sensor, as it turns out, this is the evil sensor because it warned me that I wasn't paying attention to the road. Yeah, that's really about it. Let us move this along to quality and storage. Quality is very good. There's soft touch materials all over the place, and it's leaps and bounds better than the old HS. It's all very lovely and well put together, and MG has an excellent warranty as well, so something to keep in mind. They are confident in this vehicle's longevity. As for storage, there's some really big door pockets here, surprisingly so. There's a little storage cubby next to the steering wheel. I always love to see these things. Oh yeah, and the headlight leveling switch is all the way down there for some bizarre reason. What else? The cup holders that you saw, the wireless charger, the center storage area, which is full of garbage right now, and the glove box, which is an excellent size, quite frankly. That's obviously the interior rearview mirror, which is manually dimming, surprisingly enough, and your interior dome light, which for once is full LED, and some rather nice vanity mirrors in the sun visors. Finally, the powertrain. First of all, MG's going for the double whammy here. The hood has one of those double releases on the inside, so you can just lift it up. And look at this. Hydraulics. For once, finally. Yes, we have hydraulic hood struts. Anyway, this MGHS is nothing really fancy. It's just the regular gas model. That means that under the hood is a, surprise, surprise, 1.5-liter turbo four-cylinder making 170 horsepower and that much torque. Most of the MGHS's competitors, especially the Chinese ones, use this sort of powertrain. That's hardly surprising, really, is it? Power goes to the front wheels, and at the moment, only the front wheels, through a 6-speed manual transmission or a 7-speed DCT auto, which is what we have here. In Macedonia, and I believe in pretty much every other market where the MGHS is sold, because the MGHS, for once, is a Chinese car that's sold in mainland Europe, a lot of the countries anyway. You can get it with the new Hybrid Plus powertrain, which I tried out in the ZS, and it's excellent. I believe it is the same one on the HS as well, with 194 horsepower and things like that. And there's also a plug-in hybrid called the EHS, which has, you know, a bigger battery and all of these hybrid-related things. Maybe if there is a press car at some point in the future, I will give that a try. Either one of the hybrids. In some markets, you can also get this car with a 2-liter four-cylinder with about 230 horsepower and a 9-speed automatic, regular torque converter automatic. But I believe that is for the eastern markets like Russia and China itself, frankly, I think. But you can't get that engine, at least not yet here in mainland Europe. This is all you have. 0 to 100 kph is roughly 9.5 seconds. The top speed is that much. And the fuel economy, roughly 6 or... oh no. I'm waiting for the comments. 6 or 7 liters per 100 kilometers. Ha, 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 ha. Before we wrap it up, I'm just briefly going to tell you what the handling was like. It was pretty good. There was a little bit of leaning in the corners, but the MGHS has been set up for comfort, and you can tell. However, it wasn't anything bad. General consensus is about the new MGHS is that it's way better than the old one. And it's a pretty solid example and pretty solid evidence that the Chinese listen to feedback and they take feedback very seriously. And I'm very glad about that. Overall, a huge improvement over the previous generation, and it's actually a pretty solid vehicle. The MGHS, the second generation, gets a score of 8 out of 10. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Blue Sky. There will be a link in the description, like always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.